Welcome to Faverns Daily. Day 4 has just wrapped up a few minutes ago. Duane, before we get into our medals and into our poutine, wood, silver, bronze, and gold in the second segment, there's some discussion going on with some events that have like scattered start time. And we're talking about like maybe not like the Queen and King events of the games, talk about like the men's downhill or something like that, but last night was the Alpine combined. And in maybe interest of fairness or interest of having same conditions for all the participants, having scattered starts that takes an hour and a half, 2 hours until the last skier goes through, and then you go do the slalom after. It takes a long time, and it's not necessarily TV friendly. And now we have the metrics of the feeds that are listened to, and it's not one of them that are most popular. And when you're looking at the parallel slalom and snowboard, which is very TV friendly, you see two competitors go down, and first one who crosses the line wins. It's kind of more intuitive for quote unquote fans. And I'm wondering, and you're wondering, especially, it's your idea. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, there's a movement moving towards head-to-head competition as opposed to, we'll call it rather than parallel, because sometimes it's a mass start, sometimes it's parallel, as I said, versus the old staggered start times, which is back in the day when I first fell in love with the Olympics. Everything was staggered start. You know, your biathlon, your cross-country skiing. It all was one athlete would go, and you would watch the split screen of other athletes skiing, and you'd watch the times and the splits and things like that. And you get used to it if you're a fan, but it is a little bit more difficult for, let's call it the ADHD generation, to sort of go, well, why am I just watching this one person ski or cross-country ski or whatever by themselves? So you go even to the summer games and you see how they do shooting now, which is a head-to-head competition where you break down into a round of 64, then 32, then so on and so forth. And as I talked about during the summer games, it's actually kind of compelling to watch nowadays, whereas I don't think I ever watched 2 seconds of shooting before that. So I think you've got to understand that you want to make the Olympics are a property that is a TV property in many, many ways, and they have to be compelling and they have to be entertaining. So I get it, but at the same time, the traditionalist in me gets a little sad sometimes when I hear stories about how it very likely will be the last combined event that will ever be in the Olympics, and it's an event that's been around a long time. And yesterday was probably the last gold medal because they're looking to go to a parallel slalom in the next one, and they just only have so much room for so many events on the schedule, and it's already tight with Alpine anyway, with the possibility
Delays.
Of cancellations and postponements.
Well, that's the thing.
So it's kind of sad, but
that's the thing that you have with weather, right? You can't control it, but yeah, it's the how many days in Sochi was it delayed? I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was a few, and now it's a few now too, and there might be more delays next week. We'll see, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, and look, that mountain it's wide open. That's what we're learning about Sochi so far. Is in Vancouver, the story was whether whether they have snow and so on and so forth. In Sochi, same difference. It's so mild, but in Pyeongchang, the issue is wind because the mountains are wide open. The cross-country venue is wide open. Cross-country venue is on a golf course, so it's just there's not a lot of trees, not a lot of cover there, so you're just getting winds whipping in, which is affecting. We saw that with the 30K skiathlon there. It was just awful for them. They were 50-kilometer winds right in their face when they came off a couple corners, and it just sort of condensed everything and made no one really want to go out hard in that one. They all wanted to stay together. And then with the shooting in the biathlon, it's affecting the shooting performance, whereas you didn't have anyone go clean in the first men's biathlon race, which is normally something that happens pretty consistently. So it's a challenge. But yeah, to get back to the parallel thing, look, there's going to be an event in Alpine coming up called the team event, which is something we've never seen before, really even in World Cups till recently, and certainly in the Olympics. And it's going to be, I bet, the Alpine event that people are going to go, oh, that's fun, because it's just a bang, bang, bang race situation where you get points if you win the head-to-head race against the other racer, and you have the team concept going on there. So it's only a matter of time till we see more of these events move to the parallel aspect. And one thing that's having a lot of success in the World Cup Tour right now is these parallel slaloms, which not only are they having them head-to-head racing rather than the traditional one race or two race or three race, or they're also having them in artificial, like, man-made hills in the middle of big cities in Europe.
Yeah.
And you're having big rowdy crowds show up for them.
Because you don't need them that much of a hill, do you? You just need a certain amount, and just think it takes 45 seconds to a minute to go down, and you turn, so it's not that bad. But when we're looking at other aspects of the developing world of FIS, Fédération Internationale de Ski, which ski cross, snowboard cross, is another kind of example of a new breed of event, like snowboard parallel cross been there since 2002, but it changed. Like, we used to have giant slalom. We used to have, like, what you see in skiing and snowboard, that was replaced by parallel giant slalom. We talked about this last week. But when you have, like, ski cross as well, which is very easy to understand, you got 4 people going down, and whenever it's a qualifying round, the first 2 go through and the last 2 don't. And if you fall, well, you fall, you get up. There's that component to it, which is very compelling. Oh no, your favorite athlete fell, he's 4th. But guess what? The other guys who are in front might fall too, and he's going to catch up and he's going to overtake them. So you have that compelling aspect of ski cross and snowboard cross that are making officials think about the traditional ski events. And yes, downhill will never go anywhere and will never change. You can't have 2 skiers going downhill at the same time. Come on, we'll have death on our hands. But there is some others, like you mentioned. All the technical won't necessarily change. You'll have the slalom, you'll have the giant slalom, the Super G. Those won't change. But like you mentioned, the combine or the Nordic combine, it's a different sport, but that's called to change eventually too. But the Alpine combine, way back in the day, it was literally a paper competition, which, I mean, it was literally the addition of the 2 times you did in the downhill and the combine, and it was a result, and it wasn't necessarily a competition. No, it wasn't a separate race by itself. Now it is, and with the difficulties of having Alpine events take place because of weather delays, if there was a little fewer of them, it's easier to delay them and postpone them and to find more reserve days. This Thursday was the reserve day, and it's already booked because of last week's weather delays. So there's that possibility. If you take one combine away, it's almost 1 full day of competition on the mountain that you free up for other competitions like the downhill, men's, women's, and the other aspect of the skiing events that are delayed. If you free up 1 more day, you have more reserve time, which could mean that you don't cancel one event, which we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you mentioned the fairness aspect of it, where if you have a head-to-head race, everyone's in the same conditions at the same time that they're racing for medals or for positioning, right? The only challenge is the qualification, how you determine who's going to make that round of 32 or that round of 64, however far you started up there, so that it does remain fair, because you're ultimately going to have some kind of runoff at some point. But
correct me if I'm wrong, Duane, in the ski cross, you do the first run by yourself to establish a time. And it goes pretty quickly because you can send them one before the other one cross. So you all do one quick run in a very short window of time, which technically should say similar weather, similar conditions. Exactly. Thank you. I was looking for my word. I was going to describe it all, and what I was looking for just conditions, which englobes all of it. But yeah, when you have similar conditions in a short amount of time, you can do one single time run, and then you establish a running order. And then from there on, you do a knockout stage. Or maybe you cut down from 64 to 32 at that moment, and then it's knockout. Or you find that way, because it's true, though. When you have head-to-head, at that precise moment, the conditions are pretty much the same, give or take shades of a tree here or there because of the track. It's pretty much similar. So you don't necessarily have an advantage. And from there on, it's not necessarily time, but it's who finishes first, and then carries on to a super final, which brings me to my other point. We've seen the super final in the moguls yesterday. How impressive was that? From top 20 to top 12 to top 6, and it was like, oh, the 6 best in the world. Who's gonna go there? Oh, surprise performance. Who's gonna take over the podium spot now? And if you create that aspect even more so, like the super final for the gold medal, who's gonna beat the other one? This guy or this guy? This woman or this woman? That would create another moment for television that would be incredible. Wait till we get the big air aspect, and that will amaze people as well, how TV friendly, how amazing that is. And I think you're onto something.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's inevitable, and it is unfortunate for the historical standpoint to not have that kind of continuation of the history. But things do have to evolve. I mean, you can argue one way or the other, and I do think you mentioned the downhill and that and things like that. That shouldn't go anywhere. You have to have those kind of competitions, and you can't have a parallel downhill because, as you say, it would be too dangerous because the athletes, they're tenths of a second apart. You'd be in such a pack that people would fall and it would be bad. So yeah, those things have to go off as a staggered start, but if you look at other events, the movement that way, it's obvious what they think, and I think it's only going to continue. And if I'm honest with myself, as much as I will be sad to see an event like parallel or like by a combined go away, it usually is not the one that I watched the least closely. It was on yesterday, but it was kind of, I had three other things going on. It was a second screen or a third screen at times.
And we were watching it because we were deprived of skiing beforehand. We wanted to watch the men downhill for 2 days, and we weren't able to. So whenever the combine was outside, I'm like, yeah, well, I need my skiing fix. And guess what? It's on, so I'll watch it, knowing there's no chance in where Canada's going to do anything in the combine. Yeah, we're good downhill, but nah, technical's not us. Put us down the hill, we'll go fast. Don't ask us anything else. I'm exaggerating here, but it's not in our history. We had a few good results. I remember Jan Hudek and others in technical skiing events, but downhill is what we are best known for in the history of the Crazy Canucks and the Crazy Cowboys, which is the new crop, the new generation, Crazy Cowboys Racing out of Calgary, which is everyone that we saw yesterday. But yeah, when I'm looking at the future of this, Duane, I have to say, it has to be more cost effective. Not that it's not right now, but when you're looking at the delays, and in a world where TV dictates the time of the events, the day of the events, when the events take place, and basically which events take place, you have to find a way to make it, either make it more TV friendly, and I think that's the way it's being shot. There's been so many technical evolution in how to film Olympic Games and how to bring the experience home and how to make people feel like they're part of it. One of the sport that hasn't benefited from technology in that side is skiing. We don't see GoPros strapped to their bodies so we can there's something to be done here. There's something with wires, cameras. We've seen drone, but not in the same way that we have seen it being incorporated in snowboard competition or slopestyle. It was amazing to watch slopestyle and snowboard and then watch those camera drones being in right position, taking the perfect angle for the perfect jump, giving you the effect of the amplitude of jumps on the slopestyle and the height in half pipe, because it's a mind trick almost on your eyes. You don't necessarily catch the height of the half pipe that you can see behind me, but with the drones you did. So I'm wondering if, when I was watching it last night, actually downhill, I was wondering, like, there's something to be done to convey that speed, and that would make it a lot more TV friendly, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, the danger aspect of the Winter Olympics is a big part of its appeal for a lot of people, and I think that you're right that events that back in the past we used to ooh and ah over how scary and dangerous it was, like the downhill, are kind of slipping back because we see big air, we see slopestyle, we see stuff that makes us go whoa, and that sort of takes a back seat. But I mean, those events, those older events are every bit as traditionally they're every bit as scary and dangerous, or even more so in some cases than the new ones. It's just that we maybe they don't look as modern and as spectacular. So a little bit of a shine, and we can't be afraid of evolution in sport. And I think that maybe we should embrace this idea of the parallel stuff, because if we're honest with ourselves, it is a little tedious sometimes to watch 60 skiers go down a hill in the same route, and you're looking for subtle differences in their lines and things like that, and looking at the split time and staring at the clock as much as you're actually watching them. So the pure aspect of a race, the pure aspect of a competition where first is first and it's instant and and you don't have to wait, Yeah, I kind of like that.
All right, let's take a break and come back with our medals for day 4. Catch us live daily at 10 a.m. at youtube.com/sports podcasting network. Every day of the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Olympic Games, Duane, Rollins, and myself, Kevin Laramee, will give you our breakdown of the day and our gold, silver, bronze, wood, poutine medal of the day. Help us to continue to do more. Patreon.com/sports podcasting network. This show is listener supported, and with your support over the years, we have been able to do tremendous coverage. And moving forward, we want to kick it up a notch. We want to bring you next level podcast coverage of Olympics and other amateur and Olympic sports events in the world. And to do so, we need your support. Even more so than before. Patreon.com/sports podcasting network. Speaking of medals, Duane, now we're talking about the good one, the poutine medal. We're talking about a great moment, a difficult time. It didn't go as he thought it would. But the last 3 years in Denny Morrison's life have been hell. We have even no idea. We've talked about Mark, all the names, Morrison, McMorris.
McMorris.
It all blends in now. We've talked about McMorris and how his crash was terrible and 11 broken bones and in the hospital bed for a long time. Denny Morrison in 2015 had a motorcycle accident that was life-threatening. Actually, with the force of the impact, the car that hit him on a motorcycle overturned. That's how crazy the force of the impact was. Denny Morrison's life was in danger at that moment. A year later, he's recovering and he's starting to train again. He's with his then girlfriend, now wife, Josie Morrison. They're out there, they're together, going somewhere together. And they're in the car and he's driving. And he starts to slur and he starts to have the physical symptoms of a stroke. And Josie, recognizing the situation, recognizing that something's wrong. Good thing with athletes, you have doctors in your immediate environment, immediate friends and close proximity. Takes the phone, calls the doctor of the national team, like, look, what's happening, describing the symptom, goes straight to the hospital, he's having a stroke. 2 years later now, we're in PyeongChang. He's got a metal steel rod in his right leg still. But we're able to finish 13th in the world in the 1500 meters. That is quite the accomplishment. Even if Denny Morrison himself is disappointed, he is, with honor, a recipient of the poutine medal. What a 3-year he had.
No doubt. And I mean, look, there was a great story on CBC.ca that talked about how emotional it was for the two of them to walk in the opening ceremonies hand in hand, in that stadium. And I think probably in his life, and he won a bronze medal, and he'll obviously he'll obviously fondly remember that for the rest of his life. But I think probably he'll equally remember walking hand in hand and with his wife, who he's had shared so many great moments in the sporting field, and obviously scary moments in the particular case that you mentioned, and they had that moment together, and that's every bit probably as valuable as any medal would have been to them. You would have to imagine. Athletes are competitive, and the fact that he drove himself to get back to the games is remarkable onto its own, and he obviously is going to be disappointed with the 13th place finish, but it's top 10 in the rest in the non-Dutch world, so that's pretty good too. We didn't have a sweep in that competition though, so I guess maybe we shouldn't make the joke too much. But top 2 again for the Dutch, and whoa, anyway. Yeah. But yeah, great moments, great performance for Denny Morrison, medalist for the rest of his life. He'll be an Olympic medalist, but for the rest of his life, he'll share it with you'd hope anyway, share it with the woman that he got to walk into that stadium with. And that to me is every bit as beautiful and as nice as what the medal would have been yesterday, as much as a great story that would have been.
4-time Olympians, 2006, 2010, 2014. and 2018 for Danny Morrison. Once again, coming back from the injuries he had is not easy. Coming back from a stroke, which, to his own admission, he is not back 100% yet. There's still some speech difficulties sometimes, and it takes him a lot of concentration and focus to make sure he's at his full potential, which in my opinion makes his 13th spot even such a bigger accomplishment. Just imagine, just the fact that he has a metal rod in his right leg, Duane, gives him a lot less power when he starts. But for some reason, it doesn't impede him when he finishes. So he had to adjust his entire effort levels. Throughout long-distance racing, it's very intricate how you pinpoint your efforts in an endurance race. And when you're, example, you can be known and your strength can be to be a good starter. And you have a great starter, and slowly your performance go down, but you had such an advantage at the start that you carry it over and you do good times. Or it could be the other way around. Danny Morrison was a good starter when he won his gold medals. And he had to change literally how he approaches his racing tactically and how he generates and how he manages his efforts. Because he can't start the same way, so he needs to finish stronger. So it's very intricate. He literally had to relearn to race. And he got back to the Olympics. I'm proud of Danny Morrison, but I'm impressed by the dedication, determination, and almost craziness to a certain level, and almost a mental strength that is hard to describe.
Yeah, no, the things that these Olympians do is why we love them. They do things that are incomprehensible. You know, many of us have trouble motivating ourselves to, not eat a pizza as opposed to pick ourselves up from a stroke and go back to the Olympics 2 years later. I mean, it's unworldly stuff, right?
It is. All right, enough of the poutine. Again, congratulations to Danny Morrison on your 13th spot. Now, let's move to the wood medal, and I'll start today, Duane, because yesterday you started, I'll start today. I want to talk about wax. I want to talk about the influence of wax on results in cross-country skiing, and this is motivated a bit by the result of Alex Arve, 32nd in the qualification for the sprint, did not qualify for the rest of the competition, and did not obviously get a medal. And it's disappointing. Yes, he got a silver medal in the World Championship a few years ago in that same event. Did not even qualify for the other rounds here because top 30 were moving on and the other ones were disqualified. Another Canadian finished 26th, so didn't move on. But Alex Arve, 32nd. And in the words of Becky Scott herself, famous gold medalist in cross-country skiing. Congratulations to Becky Scott, by the way. But in her own admission, almost 50% of the performance of a cross-country skier on any given day can be attributable to the wax on that day. The right decision, the right combination, the right science that was used to have the ski slide correctly on that ice, on that snow, on that day with the different conditions. Different humidity, different pressure in the air, atmospheric pressure, different temperature, different weight, whatever the case may be. And because of this, sometimes you might be the best in your best peak performance, but if on the right day your team did not do the right choice, you won't be able to perform. And I don't know, but I have a difficulty finding it fair. And not that it's not fair, the amount of knowledge is power in competition, and because of experience and decades and decades and decades, if not centuries of experience for countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, the Nordic countries in cross-country skiing, it's easier for them to get that wax right than it is for poor old Canada. And sometimes, maybe I'm a bit a homer on this issue, but it's hard for us to pinpoint the right type of wax, and I feel we're always a bit at a disadvantage because of that aspect of the sport.
Well, and certainly it does. Your support teams are a big part of this, and this is what you're speaking to, and how when you're good in a sport, when you put a lot of resources in a sport, any sport, the advantages make it very difficult for those that are behind to catch up. You need almost a phenom. You need like some performance which propels your sport forward, and it can be difficult to do. And when you're talking about Harvey, he's trying to get an historical breakthrough here, and he's still in with a chance with the rest of the races that are there. The sprint was always his weakest event, so although it is disappointing that he didn't get through, I wouldn't say all hope is done now yet. But even when you look at his waxing in that 30K skiathlon from a few days ago, where he was in the contention for large portions of it, you could kind of see when he was on downhills, when he was in gliding mode, that he wasn't able to overtake or to catch up on some of those athletes. He had to push himself a little bit harder, even on the down low, or even on the downhills, and that in turn is going to add up and not allow you to rest that little bit of extra amount, so that you can have that push when it is time to make a break or to go up front or what have you. And so, yeah, it absolutely played a role, and it played a role last night again. And you hope that he can rebound and find the right wax moving forward. But as you've mentioned, it is kind of a knowledge thing in some ways, and it stands to reason that the Norwegians are going to have the best waxers in the world because they have the most money in the program, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, your wood medal for day 4, Duane.
All right, it's almost similar in a way, not quite waxing, but women's hockey. I did talk the other day when I talked with Japan about how it is clear that the rest of the world is getting better, but my wood medal is that there's still a gap there. That even though we're 20 years into this experiment now, and I call it experiment, that we're still seeing this massive gap between the United States and Canada. In the history of Olympic competition, I believe I did the record the other day, and I said it on this show. Add 2 more wins to that. The U.S. won 5-0, Canada won 4-1 yesterday, so 9-1 aggregate, and 2 more wins. They're close to 30-1 all time against the rest of the field. They do play each other tonight, so you get that competitive game tonight, and then you wait and pay attention again at the gold medal final. And this tournament has been more compelling across the board, and I think that battle for bronze is going to be very interesting. But at the same time, at some point, women's hockey really does need to figure out what it's going to do to make sure that these other countries get better, to get competitive. It seems ironic somehow, but I think that it's almost imperative upon the U.S. and Canada to start putting resources and coaching and opportunities in their professional leagues and things like that to these other countries, just for the protection of their own sport. You have to almost help your competition out, because you worry about no one caring in a while, because it just seems like a match competition between 2 countries. And although they are getting better, as I said, there is still a ways to go. So that is my wood medal for the day, is the fact that we're still 20 years later talking about 2 countries dominating one sport in a way that is almost unprecedented in the Olympic program.
Moving to my bronze medal for day 4, Duane. It's a gold medal, actually. It's a great performance by a 21-year-old, and I'm going to butcher the out of his last name, and his first and middle probably too. Johannes Hofort Kleibo. Norwegian. Duh. Cross-country skiing. You figured that out part too out. Won the gold in sprint, and with maybe the best acceleration I've ever seen uphill from a cross-country skier. Literally making a 30-meter gap in front of 2 legends of the sport behind him. Never was caught. Great effort. Sometimes when you're a kid, when you're a young gun, you race with no fear. And Kleibo climbed with no fear on one of the last hills of that sprint race. Crossed the line first. Got the gold medal. He's new on the scene, but he's been performing great. Runner-up in the World Championship, World Cup wins 5 already in 2017. You have a great performance by Kleibo. And he wanted that gold medal, didn't get it at a skiathlon the other day, and he took advantage of the shot he had last night. And Kleibo, again, that acceleration was impressive.
The speed that the cross-country skiers are at. There's a camera angle on that course where they're coming around a bit of a bend and then sort of going down a straightaway, and you can really gather. You mentioned that earlier about how you need to capture the speed of these things, and it really is remarkable to watch how powerful they are. These are cross-country skiers, not downhill skiers, and they're still moving at a pace around 40 kilometers per hour
that many of us when we're downhill skiing wouldn't hit, right? So it is remarkable to watch, and such powerful athletes for sure. And it's something to watch and something to see. All right, Kevin, I'll move to my bronze medal, and I'm going to talk in general about the event that just concluded this morning with a Canadian gold medal. Caitlin Laws and John Morris over the Norwegians, but I want to just in general give the bronze medal to the entire mixed curling event. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. I know a lot of people enjoyed the format, enjoyed the sort of bite-size ability of it, how it's, an hour and a bit. You could watch these games play out. There's always scoring opportunities going on. It was just kind of an exciting and accessible version of curling that I think has really turned a lot of people on to the sport, as it does every 4 years. As a curling fan, it is always interesting to watch the people that have never seen the sport in any consistent way whatsoever go, wow, this is kind of fun and kind of enjoyable. Yeah. And as it gets further and further into the more and more Olympics, I'm seeing less and less of that, like, oh, it's not a real sport stuff.
You took the words out of my mouth, Duane. I was just going to say you see less and less of people mocking the sport and be like, yeah, I could do that. Or, yeah, they're not even in shape. The guy's taking a break and eating 5 donuts between shots. You don't hear that anymore, just because of even John Morrison mentioned that after the game. It's like, the game's getting more athletic. The mixed double is a bit more athletic, but the game as a whole is getting more athletic, and I think you see the result of that.
Yeah, no, and look, yes, you occasionally see some body types in curling that are closer to what you and I might be able to see in ourselves. There is no doubt about that, because the sport doesn't require a level of aerobic skill that other sports do, but it's not alone in that. There are different types of athleticism. It is a precision sport that has an element of physicality tied into it. I mean, golf is not a sport that requires you to be fit, yet the top golfers in the world are fit. Curling's the same way. It doesn't require you to be that way. And it is accessible in the sense that you or I or anyone listening to this probably could go to their local curling club and within a few weeks, a few lessons, probably be able to play the sport in a way that sort of kind of looks like what you're seeing out there on the Olympic ice, except for that they're much, much better at it, right? It's precision. I can golf, but I can't golf well. And curling's the same way. And a lot of people don't, as I said, a lot less people are doing this not a real sport stuff anymore. And I think that the mixed event does offer that element of physicality, which even cranks it to another level. And John Morris and Caitlin Laws, those are two humans that are in shape that neither one of us can probably ever aspire to, right? They are elite athletes that play a sport and they're superstars in a sport, and both of them now are double gold medalists in curling, which is that's never happened in this country
first time
before.
In the sport. It's the first time in the sport. It never was done, period. So,
yeah.
Since when? It's been since Torino that curling's been in the Olympics?
It's been longer than that. From
98?
98 forward,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it never happened that someone won more than one gold medal. So, Caitlin Laws, John Morrison, double gold medal. Not too shabby. And I share your sentiment with the mixed doubles competition. Moving on to my silver medal for day 4. And that one, first ever Canadian medal in the sport of luge. It's been a long time in the making. It was a long time in the making for Alex Goff, and she finally got the job done. After finishing 4th in Sochi, it was a heartbreaker, and it almost happened again. Duane, she was up until third spot before her last final, and hit our final run number 4, and it wasn't her best slide. She had a few technical errors here and there. It wasn't necessarily the best time, and she was disappointed. She thought the podium slipped away from her once again, and she thought 4th was what was waiting for her. But another slider had difficulty and finished outside the podium, which gave Alex Goff her long-awaited Olympic medal, bronze. First ever medal for Canada once again in the sport of luge. Congratulations to Alex Goff.
As you said, a long time coming, and really this is just you could almost in Calgary, 1988. So what are we talking about? 30 years ago. the Calgary Olympics happened, and Canada famously did not win a gold medal during that. The first host country to not do it in the Winter Games history, the only one to have not done it in the Winter Games history up till now.
Thanks.
And but 30 years later, this medal, this bronze medal, is part of that Calgary legacy, which exists because of the track they built there and the program that they developed around there. When skeleton didn't exist in the Olympics in 1988. It was just luge and bobsled. There was a lot fewer programs, but that sliding program, which was nothing in Canada 30 years ago, there was not a sliding program. There just wasn't. We would occasionally, just like you saw with other sports, have like athletes that would sort of teach themselves, or that came from some other country that would represent this country, but there was none. And as you said, it was a slow build. They had 4 fourth-place finishes in the Olympics prior to that last night. Jeez. And you saw how much it mattered to the program with the celebration that occurred when the German skier slider went over the line and was behind her. It was a mob scene. It looked like the final seconds of the Stanley Cup final with everyone jumping on the goalie.
Well, there's
like a massive mob.
That's the thing at a sliding track, right? You're quite never sober when you're there. So there's that aspect, but the way she got into the sport is quite fascinating to me too. Is winning a medal in the sport that she got into because you were friends with someone else that was doing it when you were a kid. And this one time you attended this camp in Calgary at a sliding center with your friend Sam Edney, and you discovered the passion for this sport. Congratulations once again to Alex Goff, which brings me to your silver medal for day 4, Duane.
This one's going to seem weird to people, but my silver medal is the fact that there was a positive test yesterday in the Olympics. Now, bear with me for a second.
I'm bearing.
Okay, in the 5 rings tradition, I am not going to say the name of the athlete. That is because I don't believe that they should have their name put out there when they test positive for a drug. We should just mention that they're a Japanese short track speed skater, and we'll leave it at that. The reason I'm putting this as a medal today isn't because of obviously the fact that he was there and he tested positive, but the fact that they found someone, they got a positive test, means that the testing circumstances, at least on paper, is working this time. And if we remember back to 2014, as I said in the build-up to these games, there was a wood medal in the middle of it where I went, why aren't they catching anyone? Seems a little odd to me that there's not anyone near you here. And, well, we know what was going on.
Turns out we had a feeling. And I think it happened a few times during Sochi. We're like, I remember clearly the day Russia swept the cross-country event, right? I was like, smoking gun here, red flag, this is not normal. And yeah, that's true. And I have to agree with you. The fact that one was caught is maybe a good sign in the first 4 days of the game. We'll see where that leads. And I think I agree with you. Let's continue that tradition. Let's not name the names of athletes that are doped. And you know what? It's kind of true too, because it doesn't give them that publicity. Because even if it's bad or good publicity, your name's out there. When you come back and your story's going to be bigger and you're going to have the redemption story, you're going to have the sponsors to go with it. We don't want you to have that. You dope? We're not going to make it easy for you to be more popular.
Fair enough. All right, Kevin, your turn.
I am moving to my gold medal for day number 4 in the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Olympic Games. And I believe you will have the same one as I do, Duane. Almost a perfect performance on a far than perfect event, on a judged event. A young American, Chloe Kim, who was good enough to be in Sochi, but she wasn't old enough. You have to be 16 and over to be in the games. She could have been in Sochi at 13. She met the Olympic requirements. She couldn't. She turned around and won X Games after. But this time around, she was in the Olympic game in the country of her descendants. And it's kind of fascinating to me that she went for it. She didn't have to. She went for it and almost landed a perfect run, 98.5, a class above everybody else. Chloe Kim, snowboard halfpipe champion.
Yeah, well, it is. Chloe Kim is my gold medalist as well. But yeah, she did that 98.25 run in, I think it was 2.5, but in a victory lap. And often victory lap is a term when you're the last skier to drop, as they use the terminology. and you've already assured yourself a first place, so you're just basically getting a free lap out there to show off. And often, I remember Vancouver. It was a Finnish rider that won the gold or won something at any rate, and he just
fell,
sort of went
right?
down the middle of the. Yeah, he just went, whatever, yeah, let's go, let's get the party going, right? Whereas no, she was like, I'm gonna try stuff here, and she put like a double 1080.
Yeah.
God, terminology. She did a double 4 flips, right? So 4 turns. So yeah, it was quite impressive to watch, and she, it begs the question whether they should revisit the idea of age restrictions. I get why, and really the age restriction idea came in because we were seeing gymnasts getting younger, like stupid young, like 12 years old and stuff like that, and they were worrying, and maybe they were putting them in danger by putting them in that situation. But maybe there should be some kind of provision where you can appeal to get in under an age group, and that would have made more sense. But nonetheless, she's an Olympic champion now. Probably, Kevin, we should mention, and I didn't put him on the list today because it was just qualifying, and the opposite end of the spectrum, the great Shaun White leads the men's qualifying with a near perfect run as well, and that's the American snowboarders in general continue to that sport was invented there and continues to be massively popular there, and they continue to dominate it in many ways. And Kelly Clark as well, the original superstar of women's snowboarding, with a 4th place finish. That for when you're talking about a sport that's dominated by teenagers, often to have a 31-year-old in both cases, and Shaun White and Kelly Clark, to go down and still compete with the youngins is still pretty impressive too. So yeah, to make it different, I'll make my gold to the entire American snowboarding team, and then you can have Chloe Kim as yours. So there, we were a little different.
Do you feel old yet?
God, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I was watching what you were saying on social media when Kelly Clark was winning. I was like, yeah, I remember that time too. I remember a long, long time ago. And now, as is the new tradition on Five Rings Daily, we'll take a look at the medal staining. Yeah, we'll take a look at it for the top 10, at least, dominating the games once again with 5 gold medals. That's how we do a standings, by the way. That's how you should do a standings. It's the amount of gold medals and then the numbers. Germany, 5 gold medals, 2 silver, 2 bronze for 9 medals in first position in the overall standings. Netherlands, 4 gold, 4 silver, 2 bronze for 10. Norway, third with 3 gold medals, 5 silver, and 3 bronze for 11 medals. Canada, 3 gold medals in 4th position in the medal standings so far. 4 silvers, 3 bronze. USA, 3 golds, 1 silver, 2 bronze. France in 6th. Sweden, Austria, Italy, and the host country, Republic of Korea, finishes the top 10 of the medal standings. So far, Duane, the only big surprise I have is only 3 gold for Norway, but there hasn't been that many cross-country skiing events so far, so it kind of explains that.
Yeah, well, they're winning lots of medals, Norway is, and yeah, they'll find their way. Norway will probably win the medal standings when all is said and done. That was my prediction heading in. I predicted, for the record, and you can look at the feed if you want, that it would be Norway, Canada would 1-2 in the standings. And so far, when you're looking at this from a purely Canadian standpoint in terms of total medals, and the golds are starting to roll now, it does look like this could very well be an historical high water mark for the Canadian team, which proves that on the podium works, which we knew already, but 8 years on, we were wondering that at the end of Vancouver, whether it would be a sort of one and done situation, but they continue to build and build and build upon the legacy of those great games at home, and away we go. It's going to be fun. Going to be fun today, going to be fun the rest of the way. We're only 4 days into this, Kevin. It already seems like we've been like 6 weeks, but it varies. There's still a lot of days left.
Well, that's because you don't sleep, so it doesn't help. But there's the aspect that we started 2 days before, too, with day -1 and day 0 before the actual game. So, yeah, it's day 4, but it's the 6th day in a row that we do the daily show. And we'll have one tomorrow, and Thursday we're taking 1 day off, and we'll be back after. So tomorrow, 10 a.m., we'll be back for another edition of Five Rings Daily. You can follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, by the way. You're listening to this live. Take a second. Bottom of your screen. Subscribe. hit that subscribe button. It gives us a lot of joy. And you can go as well at patreon.com/sportspodcastnetwork to make sure that our joy is rewarded as well. Until tomorrow, you can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. Go to bed, go to sleep, and have a great Olympics.